second graders. Today we are working on Unit 3, Lesson number 10. Our learning targets for today, by the end of the lesson, we will be finishing up our spelling test. If you log into the live Zoom lesson, we will be able to sort spellings that use the O sound, and we will be able to ask and answer questions about key details from our story, Kim's Training. So today is our spelling test, and what you're going to do if you are taking the spelling test is you will log into the live Zoom lesson during skills to listen to the words and write them down on your paper. These are a reminder of our spelling tests. Remember, we are working on tricky spelling C and tricky spelling G this week. Sometimes the letter C says K like carpet. Sometimes the letter C says S like face. Sometimes the letter G says G like gray. Sometimes the letter G says J like page. Our tricky word this week is a rule breaker, and our tricky word is the word R. All right, in your workbook, you have page 10.2 and 10.3, and it is sort of like a scavenger hunt. And on 10.2, you're going to place them next to each other at home, but on 10.2, you have sound spellings. 4 different spellings for the sound O. You have O consonant E, that's our magic E. You have just the letter O, you have OA, and you have OE. And then on page 10.3, you have clues. For example, number 1 says, which word means the same thing as deer? So I'm going to look through all the words on that sheet, and I'm going to ask myself, which word is a synonym or a word that means the same as the word deer? And I know that the name for a female deer is a doe. So I find under the OE column, the spelling OE makes the O sound for the word doe. In your Google form, what you're going to do is you're going to sort the words based on their spelling. So you're going to look at a word and ask yourself, does it use O consonant E, just O, OE, or OA to make that sound? Okay, so the story that you are going to be reading today is called Kim's Training. Now, in the last lesson, you read the story called Val's Training. What do we remember about Val's training? What did Val do in her training? Val swam first, and then she worked out. She did chin-ups, she did bench presses, and she did sit-ups. So Val is the first sister, and today we're going to read about Kim. These are some of the words that you're going to find in the story, okay? Now, the first 2 columns are words that make the O sound. One is O consonant E, like explode, whole, and notebook. And the next one uses just the letter O to make the O sound, and that word is overall. Our multi-syllable words that we will find in our story today are practicing, whispered, underlined, exploded, notebook, and overall. So if you see any of these words while we're reading the story today, you're going to tap your head. Previewing the vocabulary in the story. So the first word is start. The start in this case means the beginning of a swim race. Getting a fast start is an important skill to master if you want to excel in a swim race. Okay? The second vocabulary term is starting blocks. The starting blocks are the place where the swimmers stand and dive off at the beginning of the race. You can see they're on starting blocks in all 3 pictures. The third vocabulary term is take your marks. You may have heard someone say, on your mark, get set, go. Take your marks is just like that, and it means to get into the starting position or into your starting place at the beginning of a race. And then 2 more. The first one says, like a cat. And you might be thinking, what does it mean, like a cat? If you say someone is like a cat, it means that they're moving in a way that resembles or looks like a cat. So we'll find out what that means for Val's story. And then the last word is stroke. And a stroke is a method of moving your arms and legs while you're swimming in the water. There's all different kinds of strokes in swimming that you have to practice and get good at in order to master. So we're going to read carefully to learn about how Kim trains and how it compares to what her sister Val does during practice. Remember, Val went swimming and then she worked out. So I'm going to look at my table of contents and find Kim's training, and I see it begins on page 32. All right, it's this page right here. Kim's training. After seeing Val train, I went to lanes 3 through 5, where Kim and the rest of the sprinters were training. They were not swimming lap after lap like Val. They were practicing their starts. "Swimmers, take your marks," a coach yelled. Kim and the rest of the sprinters bent down. They grabbed the starting blocks with their fingers. "Up!" yelled the coach. The sprinters exploded off the blocks. Exploded. Good. They dove into the pool. Kim was the fastest off the blocks. She sprang like a cat. Her hands seemed to make a hole in the pool. Then her arms and legs went in the same hole. Kim went under. She started kicking with her legs like a fish. Then she popped up and started swimming. She took 5 fast strokes. Then she stopped. She swam to the side of the pool, got out, and went back to the starting blocks. "Why did she stop?" I asked. "We are just practicing the start," said Coach Pibwell. "You see, the start is a big thing in a sprint like the 50 free. If you are fast off the starting blocks, you have a good chance of winning the race. But if you trail off the blocks or move slower, it's hard to win. You end up back in the waves, getting sloshed from side to side. That's why we have the sprinters do lots of starts. Kim's start has been getting better and better." "So, Coach," I said, "do you think Kim can win the 50 free at the state meet?" "She should win it," said the coach. "I think she is the best overall swimmer in the state. Plus, as you can see, she has a strong start. But the 50 free is so fast. A lot of swimmers could win it." "And the 100 free?" "She should win that too." "And the 200? I asked. Coach Pibwell smiled. "Well," he said, "the 200 free should be one heck of a race. Kim could win all 3, the 50, the 100, and the 200. That's her goal. But Val will be swimming that race too." Coach Pibwell looked to see if Kim was looking. She was not. Then he whispered, "I think Val gets a kick out of swimming faster than her big sister. And she has been training hard. The 200 is like a short jog for her. So it should be a good race." I got out my notebook. I looked at the page where I had written, "Sunday the 25th, 200 free, Castro versus Castro." I underlined it twice. So it looks like Kim and Val are going to be racing against each other in the 200 free coming up in our next story. I'm going to go through some questions that I want you to be thinking about before you get to your Google form. And all of these questions are based on our story today, all about Kim and what she was doing at her practice. Remember, it was called Kim's training. Okay? So number 1, does Kim swim in the same lane as Val? Do they swim in the same lane? Well, they swim different races, so they don't swim in the same lane. What were Kim and the sprinters practicing? Coach Pibwell said if you do a really great job at this part, you have a better chance of winning. Does Kim have a fast start? How does Kim dive off of her starting block? What kind of animal do they compare her to when she dives off the starting block? How did she kick her legs? What kind of animal do they compare Kim to when she kicks her legs? Why did Kim stop swimming? Why did she stop? What was important for her to do? Why is it important for her to practice starts? What do we know about starts and our sprinter swimmers? And then question 8, a little bit out of order. Why do you think Coach Pibwell smiled when Mark Deeds asked about the 200 free? Now remember, the 200 free is going to be Val and Kim swimming in it. They're going to be swimming and competing against each other, even though they're sisters. Okay? So after this, you are going to open up your Google form. You are going to sort the spellings for words that use the O sound. You are going to reread Kim's training, which is in your Google form, and you'll be able to answer questions about key details from today's story, Kim's training. Okay, if you have any questions, please reach out and ask. Take your time, try your best, and I'll see you soon. Great job today.